Tonight, the difficult journey for abortion care. As the number of women travelling to England for the procedure hits a near record high, the Scottish Government is accused of paying lip service to the problem.
We need to get it fixed because the situation just now is untenable, and even as we're filming this, somebody will be on their way down to London to get treatment.
Also making the headlines, Scottish businesses brace for Trump's tariffs. On what the US President has dubbed Liberation Day, hefty levies on foreign imports are set to be announced. And we meet the Glaswegian teenager who's all shook up after winning European titles as an Elvis impersonator. I'm John Mackay. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Every 4 days, a woman is forced to travel from Scotland to England to get an abortion, and the numbers making that difficult journey are rising. STV News can reveal under UK law, abortion is permitted until 24 weeks of pregnancy, but the cut-off for most cases in Scotland is 4 weeks earlier. Campaigners have accused the Scottish Government of paying lip service to the problem and say NHS Scotland is out of excuses. The Women's Health Minister admits work to address the issue is taking too long. Paris Koutsianis has this exclusive report.
What began as an ordinary day turned Gemma's life upside down.
I'd been in work one day and I'd bent down to pick something up and I'd had a lot of pain in my stomach and on my back. So I went to the doctors. So one of the questions she asked me was like, do you think that you could be pregnant? But I was like, no.
Gemma, we've changed her name to protect her identity, was taking contraceptive injections, but a scan revealed she was 5 months pregnant.
I started panicking because I was like, look, I'm in this situation that I can't do this, what was my options? And just straight up they were like, you're too far gone in Scotland, it's illegal, you need to go to London.
Each year, dozens of Scottish women find themselves in Gemma's position. Despite UK law allowing abortion up to 24 weeks, in most cases, the cutoff in NHS Scotland is 20 weeks. Women whose pregnancies are more advanced are forced to travel to England.
Paris, hello. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Today, many Scottish women are treated by this man, Dr. Ed Dorman. He's speaking on camera for the first time. Cases like Gemma's are more common than you'd think, and there are other reasons for seeking an abortion in the second trimester of pregnancy.
Quite a lot of people find that domestic violence starts for the first time in pregnancy, and we see some young people, so adolescents, who are very frightened and maybe in denial about the fact that they're pregnant.
According to BPAS, the number of women they treat from Scotland has risen from 67 in 2023 to 88 last year, near a record high. One woman every 4 days.
It makes me feel really angry. I think there's been a lot of lip service paid to this issue by the government over the years.
Lucy Grieve campaigned for buffer zones to ban protests around abortion clinics. Now she says vulnerable women are being let down and left to pay the costs.
Some health boards have said that they only have £50 per night that they can spend. You're not going to get a hotel in central London for that. It's unacceptable.
For women facing a traumatic moment in their lives, travel to England adds to the ordeal.
I've sat in the office when the nurse manager in charge of this clinic has been on the phone to somebody in Scotland who's had all sorts of issues, including substance misuse and addiction, who's just not been able to manage to get it together to come down to England for treatments.
What do you feel now when you think that actually still, to this day, every week, a woman from Scotland has to make that same journey that you did?
How is that a thing? Why does anybody think that's okay? This has to stop.
And there will be more on this story on Scotland Tonight at 10:40. There's a warning tonight that many Scottish businesses who trade heavily in the US will struggle to survive if Donald Trump imposes hefty tariffs on foreign imports. The US President argues the measures will help US manufacturers and protect jobs. However, prices could go up for consumers in the States and make them more reluctant to buy goods such as whisky and salmon. Ollie Dickinson has more on this developing story.
Morning in Washington, D.C. on what Donald Trump has dubbed America's Liberation Day. The US president will announce tariffs on goods from countries he deems are giving the US a bad deal on trade. The ripple effect of the move, which Mr. Trump claims will boost US manufacturing, will be felt all the way across the Atlantic, especially for Scottish companies who sell their goods in the States.
Said America is the biggest export market for Scotch whisky, approaching £1 billion worth of value. And for us, it represents about 10% of our export sales at the moment. The last time the tariffs came in, it reduced the value of exports. And so you could reasonably expect a similar situation this time. But obviously, the higher the tariff, the more the impact on exports to that country.
Tariffs are taxes charged on goods imported from other countries. For example, a 25% tariff on a $100 bottle of whiskey would have an additional $25 charge. Companies pay that to the government and might pass some or all of the cost to the customers, meaning prices on shelves go up and shoppers think twice before buying.
Well, obviously, it would be very, very challenging for Scottish and indeed UK businesses, because what it could mean is obviously increase to our cost base, and also a situation where many businesses, if they were introduced at a level that may or may not be sustainable, therefore the potential of job losses and real impact on Scotland's economy.
And for every action, there is a reaction. The EU has announced it will impose tariffs worth £22 billion on US products, including bourbon and boats. Here, the Prime Minister says he doesn't want a knee-jerk response.
We will, Mr. Speaker, always put the national interest first, and that's why I'm pleased that talks are ongoing and they're constructive talks. I do believe that a trade war is in nobody's interest, and all of the sectors and industries impacted are of the same view. So we'll continue to make that progress in the national interest.
Scottish dancers will perform at the US Capitol as part of Tartan Week celebrations. The action taken in Washington, D.C. tonight could leave the world dancing to Donald Trump's tune on tariffs. Ollie Dickinson, STV News.
The owners of the Grangemouth oil refinery are calling on the UK government to change regulations to speed up the redevelopment of the site. Giving evidence to MPs, Petro Ineos boss Ian Hardy defended the decision to close Scotland's only refinery, but said he was confident about the future of the site. Well, our political editor Colin Mackay was watching. Colin, what else did he have to say?
Well, we've had a lot from the unions, we've had a lot from politicians, but we haven't heard much at all from Petro Ineos. Today they confirmed that the refinery staff who are being laid off will get an 18-month redundancy pay. But what they also confirmed was that Ineos support staff who are also losing their jobs as a result of this won't get that. They're in consultations just now. But the bosses say they are confident of attracting new investment, creating new jobs. But what they really need are urgent changes to government regulations.
Once there's an acceptance by government that they need to change, industry will do what industry does, which is pile into Grangemouth, because it is a fabulous asset. It is a fabulous asset base, and the fact that we've got this level of attention and rigour on it, actually I welcome, because it's highlighting Grangemouth, it's highlighting its potential.
But there was a warning today too that the Acorn carbon capture project is absolutely essential to reaching the full potential of the Grangemouth site. And there was a warning that unless the UK government gets its finger out and gives the go-ahead to that, the investors could walk away.
So Colin, that was at Westminster. What's been going on where you are at Holyrood?
Well, Patrick Harvie has announced that he's standing down as co-leader of the Greens. He's the longest-serving party leader in the Scottish Parliament. He was the first Green politician in government in Scotland, and his plan is to stay on as an MSP, standing in the election next year. And then this afternoon, there were tearful tributes to Christina McKelvey. The SNP MSP died last week, and today her family watched on as her partner Keith Brown and friends and colleagues made emotional speeches.
Christina, I loved you. We all loved you. and I am going to miss you so very much.
I always thought Christina to be a stunningly attractive woman. But the real measure of Christina was not how she looked, but it was in her mind and in her heart.
Now, in the speeches, there were smiles as well as the tears because Christina McKelvey was one of the most loved MSPs here. There will now be a by-election in Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse. That will happen by the end of June. But that was probably furthest from people's minds here today.
Indeed. Colin at the Scottish Parliament, thank you. Scottish postmasters are still pursuing compensation years after a widespread miscarriage of justice that left many bankrupt or wrongly accused of theft, fraud and false accounting. The newly formed Scottish Postmasters for Justice and Redress support group is appealing for victims of the Post Office's Horizon computer system scandal to come forward and tell their story, as Caitlin Hutchison reports.
I didn't want people to know, I didn't want to embarrass my family. I said to my wife, I'm not wanting to be here.
Robert Thompson endured a 20-year-long fight to clear his name. After being accused of embezzling cash from his Canvas post office, last year he became one of the first victims in Scotland to have his conviction overturned.
I can walk the streets with a smile on my face and no name calling or anything like that. So it has been a lot of weight off my shoulders.
Now he's turning his attention to getting justice for other victims of the Horizon scandal and spearheading a new support group for them and their families. Cameron and his sister still remember when Post Office investigators turned up at the door.
Their demeanour was very aggressive, and the way that they treated Dad particularly, that's what upset me more than anything. So it wasn't really about the money, it was just the fact that he was treated like a crook.
I just think it's wrong that people that lost their livelihoods, lost their lives, and some people perhaps didn't lose all that, but just lost a lot of money and walked away from the businesses, and they've not been paid fairly, and they're still waiting, just like I am. I'm still waiting for my compensation.
You said upstairs, of course, that it's Westminster that hold the purse strings on this issue and they just need to get their finger out, you've suggested.
Yes, indeed. There isn't even an all-party parliamentary group on post offices now. I don't care how long this takes. We want it done as quickly as possible, but we want justice.
We've got to remember, for a lot of these people, they've had their reputations destroyed, their own personal belief in themselves destroyed. So what we need to do is provide them with the confidence that by coming forward to their fellow colleagues as postmasters, that they will be looked after and they will be cared for.
The group believes there could be many more victims of the scandal yet to come forward. Caitlin Hutchison, STV News in Edinburgh.
A 66-year-old man from Lanarkshire who murdered his wife in a violent attack has been jailed for life. Walter Buchanan killed 37-year-old Daryl Odiambo at their home near Hamilton Racecourse in February 2023. The families of two young people who died in Polmont described a meeting with the heads of the Scottish Prison Service as painful but positive. The chief executive of the SPS repeated the position that she accepted Crown immunity from prosecution should be abolished. The UK government said they are in discussions on the issue. This is the first time Katie Allen and William Lindsay's families have met with the prison service following a fatal accident inquiry which found multiple failings led to their deaths.
We are committed and determined to not only action the recommendations that we have accepted in full, but to ensure that there is systemic change across the organisation.
For the first time, I think we didn't feel demonised by the prison service, but we felt listened to, and we found that very restorative.
Two men remain in hospital after a fire in Cumbernauld. 6 people were initially taken to hospital following the blaze, which happened at Blair Lynn Industrial Estate yesterday afternoon. Emergency services have remained on the scene. People in the area were told to remain indoors and keep windows closed due to the fire. The first Scot to have a double hand transplant has been sharing the incredible moment she was able to hug and hold hands with a twin sister of her donor for the first time. Corrine Hutton from Renfrewshire says she wanted the relatives of Julie Wilde to know just how grateful she was. Julie's sister told Corinne her recovery has been a source of comfort and pride for her family. Here's our chief reporter, Sharon Frew.
In 2019, Corinne Hutton became the 6th person in the UK to receive a double hand transplant. Months later, she was able to meet her donor's family.
I'll shake your hand because I can.
Yeah.
Is that a good enough grip?
That's fantastic.
Can I give you a hug? You're very brave. Have a good look.
Julie had beautiful hands.
I know that. I know that. They were perfect when I got them. They're just wonderful, and every day they're doing more than they were the day before. Every week.
She would be so proud. She would. Absolutely so proud.
This morning, the two were reunited. They have decided to share pictures of their meeting to support an NHS campaign to urge more people to donate organs and tissue.
Do you recognise them?
Of course.
Yeah.
They're still Julie's hands.
It's just mind-blowing, isn't it?
Do they still feel...
They do, yeah.
They're
yeah.
warm.
Does it remind you?
It does. They're Julie's hands.
Yeah.
Even though last time you said I knew instantly they were my hands, they're still Julie's as well.
Yeah.
So they're still Julie's hands to me. And then it's amazing. They couldn't have gone to anybody better.
Thank you.
Deborah says her sister, Julie Wild, who worked for Sheffield Children's Hospital, was her best friend, and she is lost without her. The 51-year-old died from a sudden brain bleed. Her family said when the specialist nurse approached them to ask about donating limbs, they were at first taken aback, but then didn't hesitate.
It's a difficult thing for families when you've lost someone so quickly as well.
It is.
It's very brave.
It is. I mean, she saved 4 people's lives. They were a liver, pancreas and 2 kidneys. So she actually saved 4 lives, but transformed yours, Corinne.
Yes, it has, absolutely.
She lives on.
Grateful.
Yeah.
She does live on through her hands.
Transplant waiting lists are at the highest levels in a decade. Hand transplants are not part of the NHS organ donor register, but if a match for an individual patient in the programme is found, specialist nurses can raise the option with relatives.
Although there's the opt-out scheme, which is great and is progress, I think it's far better to opt in, you know, actually sign up for the organ donation register. In that, you can tell people what you would like to or not. So I think, it's really important, but this isn't part of it yet, so you still have to make that big decision and answer that big question.
I just think it's miraculous.
It is absolutely miraculous.
I still can't believe she's not here, but she's here today.
Corinne now has about 95% function in her right hand and about 75% in her left. She described this moment as like meeting her long-lost family. Sharon Frew, STV News.
Have a good look.
Let's get to the sport now. Here's Ronnie.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Good evening. Former Celtic defender Bobby Petta says it would be a phenomenal achievement if Brendan Rodgers' men went on to win the treble this season. The Dutchman, who picked up a clean sweep of domestic trophies under Martin O'Neill, is calling for his old side to sprint over the finish line, with Celtic just 3 wins away from the Premiership title.
Bernardo with the shot, Butland saves, but there is Adamina!
This was the moment Celtic wrapped up the Scottish Cup last season. A 1-0 win over Rangers, securing the double. Now, with Brendan Rodgers' men all but securing the title and in the semis of the Scottish Cup this season, one former treble winner says it would be a monumental moment for the club if they could go one better.
But I think just having a treble is not easy. And to win it again would be obviously phenomenal, but you know, take it one game at a time. And I think a lot of people, it's in sight, of course, but you got to dismiss that, and you can take it every game as it comes and win.
On the Premiership front, Celtic are just 3 games away from wrapping up their 4th league title in a row, and Petta wants the Parkhead club to go full steam ahead in their remaining league matches.
You know, you got a gap there for I think 13 points. Mm-hmm. So if Celtic just turns up, like they should, have done most of the time, then then that's one step forward. And then obviously, yeah, nothing is given to you. You still have to work for potentially, and on paper you've got the best squad, the best players, very successful, and you want to continue that.
Elsewhere, Brendan Rodgers confirmed goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel is likely to be out for 5 to 6 weeks after injuring his shoulder on international duty. To rugby, and as Glasgow Warriors get set for their blockbuster European tie against English side Leicester, coach Pete Murchie admits they'll need to be at their very best to win at Scotstoun. Franco Smith's side go into the match off the back of an impressive league win at home against the Lions at the weekend, and Murchie says they'll need much more of the same on Saturday.
We need to be at our best. You know, we need an excellent performance. Leicester have been pretty consistent this year, and obviously they lost at home, which they'd be disappointed about. But yeah, we're not going to be able to go through the motions and win this game. It will be a full throttle round of 16 games, so we're going to have to be right up there.
Edinburgh's Wes Goosen admits qualifying to play for Scotland factored into his decision to extend his deal in the capital for another 2 years. The back three player, who was born in South Africa and raised in New Zealand, would be eligible through residency in 2027 and says fellow Kiwi Tom Jordan's impact for Scotland has inspired him.
Watching Tom play from Six Nations and how well he played was cool, and the passion that he had straight away for Scotland, and seeing a few of those West African boys, it's definitely something I thought about, but it was more, I've really enjoyed it here. Be silly to move, but yeah, I guess keep playing good rugby and see what happens.
Finally tonight, after following in the footsteps of Torvill and Dean by winning a medal at the World Championships, Scottish figure skater Lewis Gibson hopes his achievement can ignite a flame within the sport in Scotland. Gibson, originally from Prestwick, won bronze alongside partner Lila Fear in the event in Boston, the first medal for Britain since 1984, and hopes that can inspire the next generation of skaters.
I hope it just ignites a flame that's sort of continually burning. There's so many great young athletes out there, and I'd love for anyone to get involved, like go along to the local rinks that are there and just go public skating, feel what it feels like to skate around the ice and glide, and hopefully we won't be able to get people off of there, but I'm sure it's going to get people excited about the sport again.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
They've got Torvill and Dean, we've got Mackay and Woodland. Much rather have that, wouldn't you? Your face says it all.
Spinning around the ice, I'm imagining that, maybe not. Anyway, thank you for that. The weather now with Sean, and we'll have more of this sunshine, please, Sean.
An icy start to the day will give way to a series of oohs and ahs. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Good evening. Wall-to-wall sunshine for many of us out there today. Another glorious day. Now, if you're watching from Argyll and Bute, the West Highlands, Ayrshire, I've got fantastic news for you, because we're going to see almost blue skies, endless blue skies between now and early next week. Hardly a cloud in the sky. And we also have the warmest weather as well. Temperatures over the coming days about 16 to 18 degrees. Of course, blue skies out there again this evening. Plenty of clear spells around during tonight. The possibility of a few wee low cloud patches developing over inland parts, and actually quite a chilly night for the south and east. Lanarkshire again, around Falkirk, Stirling, Grangemouth and Livingston, Bathgate and Kincardine. Temperatures down to about 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. So quite a chilly night in eastern parts, and it's in these areas where we've got the possibility of just a little bit of cloud early on tomorrow. Now, it looks as if the data is broken. I don't have any data on the map. Trust me, I do. It's just that we have no cloud around to show on the weather map. A glorious day tomorrow after any early morning cloud is cleared away. Highs up to about 15 to 17 degrees Celsius. Feeling very pleasant in that sunshine. Now, don't tend to on a Wednesday take the forecast out to a Sunday, but given the fact we've got high pressure, we've got stable weather, fairly decent confidence in the forecast. We're going to see a lot more cloud coming into eastern parts and also into North Lanarkshire and Glasgow towards the weekend, just coming through the central belt. But Ayrshire, Argyll and Bute and the Highlands, plenty of glorious sunshine. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
We'll take more of that for sure. Now finally, a Glaswegian teenager is all shook up after being named the European Youth Champion Elvis impersonator, despite having only started performing as his hero just over a year ago. Laura Boyd joined 16-year-old Evan King at his home as he was rehearsing for this weekend's Scottish Elvis Festival in Aviemore to find out why audiences can't help falling in love with his act.
Elvis may have left the building, but the King is thriving in Rockhill, as 16-year-old Evan King is fast becoming one of the country's leading Elvis tribute acts.
I got into the Elvis tribute world only about a year ago performing. Well, the first movie I saw Elvis was GI Blues, and I saw him in that when I was about 4 or something. It was how he looked, beautiful voice, his charisma, how he was around all the ladies. And I says, I want to be that one day. My dad says, hey, you go for that, son. You go for it.
And Evan did go for it, taking part in his first Elvis competition last year, where he picked up the coveted European Youth Champion title. Now, some major gigs lie ahead.
That is so mind-blowing when my manager told me that I was going to perform in Graceland in Memphis. Couldn't have been any happier.
And this weekend in Scotland is a special weekend for Elvis fans, isn't it?
The Scottish Elvis Festival, it's mind-blowingly cool, you know, playing in front of a home crowd, headlining a festival in front of your own people.
Amongst Evan's many fans, he is always on the mind of one special lady, his beloved Nana, Agnes.
He's polite, he's genuine, he's kind.
And he's talented.
And he's talented, yeah. I think he's going to go places.
Nana means everything to me. She's looked after me during all this.
But we know you can walk the walk, but can you talk the talk?
I'm very honoured for STV News to be interviewing me. That is a dream come true. And, well, I got one more thing to say, honey, and that's thank you. Thank you very much.
Only one thing to say, the STV News has left the building. Good night.